Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. I'm back with another story I'd like to share with you. Or rather, I feel the need to share with you as there's nothing I like about it. When someone goes missing in our national parks, the British search and rescue team are contacted immediately. However, they're always at least half an hour's flight away, and even then, they only have so much flight time left before they're forced to turn their helicopters around to refuel. This leaves a lot of the actual searching down to the rangers, as we know all of the areas and trails very well. It's always an adrenaline-pumping situation to be in, as you never know what the outcome will be. Usually, the helicopter spots the lost people within 20 minutes of joining the search. But then, there are the missing people. You should know that between the rangers, we refer to these situations with two categories: lost people and missing people. A lost person is a normal search and rescue scenario. Someone went down the wrong trail and hasn't been seen in a while, maybe throw in a broken leg for good measure. The main thing is that we find them, even if they are a little beaten up. A missing person is someone who hasn't been seen for well over a day, or if the situation just seems off. For example, when people just seem to disappear. I have one particular case I'm going to share with you. I will warn you closer to the time, but there's some pretty explicit content in this memory, so here's your pre-warning. It was a pretty standard shift. The sky was just starting to dim as the sun started sinking towards the horizon, and I was in the ranger station taking calls and checking emails when a woman came bursting through the door, absolutely beside herself. Her hair was a mess with leaves tangled in it. Her makeup was all smudged down and across her face, and her eyes were red from crying. She told me that her son had been by her side 1 minute, and when he went into the bushes just off the trail for a wee, he never came back. There was no scream, no noise, no nothing. I knew at that instant that we had a missing person on our hands, and my heart stopped. A missing child was always bad news, and seldom had a happy ending. He had been in the bush for maybe 2 minutes when his mother called out to him, and she went running into the woods to try and find him. She was very lucky to have made it back to the trail without getting lost, or worse, if you ask me. I tried my best to calm her down and took her to a map. After showing her where our station was, I asked her to try and locate their general location at the time, while I made some calls. She protested at first, but after assuring her we had dealt with this kind of situation many times, she brought herself to trust my instructions and started tracing her tracks on the map. I immediately called the SAR team closest to us and told them the exact location was to be confirmed, but to dispatch a helicopter for a missing child. They gave us an ETA of 40 minutes. So I gathered all the rangers on duty, and after confirming with the woman where she believed they were when he disappeared, we all got assigned grids on the map to check, and we headed out. We're very thorough when we do a search. We go through each square of the grid very effectively and don't leave so much as a single rock unturned. We were getting deeper and deeper into the woods at one point. We'd been searching for a good couple of hours, but the dogs hadn't picked up the boy's scent, and we were merely doing a routine comb-styled search. The helicopter was buzzing around non-stop and everyone was quiet. No one really speaks much while looking for children. I think it's because of the fact that it's a child we're looking for, not an adult who may be able to look after themselves. I was getting this heavy knotted feeling in my gut. You know, the kind you get when you just know that it's going to be a fruitless effort. I should also mention that it was getting dark, and there wasn't much light left, and What little was left was completely blocked out by the trees, so it was flashlights from there on out for us.
"We'll never find this kid, bro,"
my colleague said in a completely flat voice. "Don't talk like that. We never know what we could find," I replied sharply, though deep down in my gut, I knew the child was gone. The helicopter left for more fuel and came back again. After a further few more hours of searching, it was getting very dark and we called it a night, as we needed to be back before the forest was completely consumed by darkness. A woman stayed in one of the medical beds we had previously prepared for her son that night, though I doubt she slept at all. I watched the trail cameras that lay deep in the forest, somewhat in the area the child could have walked in. After an hour or so of nothing, I eventually decided to call it a night. We didn't find the boy the next day, or the day after that for that matter. It was 3 weeks later, one of our rangers radioed that they'd found the body of a child deep in the woods, and that we needed to get there fast. She sounded worried. A few rangers and I jumped into a 4x4 that we used to get into the woods quickly, and we made our way to the location described. It's a clearing near an old entrance to a closed-up cave system. The trees all around it seemed to lean over towards the cave entrance, as if watching intently for whatever might climb out. We arrived after a 10 or maybe 15-minute drive. It was one of the most uncomfortable and tense rides of my career, as the vehicle access trail was rarely used, and we didn't have much reason to come this far into the woods and never traveled it at speed. We parked in the clearing and approached what would turn out to be one of the most disturbing experiences of my entire career. I would like to take this opportunity to warn you that what I describe next could be disturbing to some and cause upset, as I can only label it as child abuse. The boy was curled up in the fetal position, on his left side, and it may have looked as if he died naturally, if it wasn't for the huge pool of blood he was laying in, along with the fact that he was completely nude. We rolled his stiff body over onto his back, and I think we all took a step back, as if some force had pushed us all away at the same time. Some sick fuck had sliced his gut open, allowing all his innards to spill out. But the horror didn't end there. Oh God, no. Please, understand that this is not an easy memory for me to recite, so forgive me for not going into too much detail, though I doubt you'll feel like you missed out. The left everything of this boy was gone. His left eye, left ear, left testicle, left hand, foot, etc. I was mortified, and I'm not ashamed to say that I threw up violently almost instantly upon taking all of this in. Every cut on him was very neat and clean, more so than you'd imagine a surgeon could make, especially out in the woods. What was even more horrifying was that the body couldn't have been more than a few days old. Whoever, or whatever for that matter, had taken him and done this had kept him alive for almost 3 weeks. The thought of how terrified this child must have been still sickens me even now, nearly 7 years on. We called it in, and an air ambulance took his body away to be examined by the police and checked for prints and whatever. Now, we're not really meant to be kept in the loop on the following investigations after they've left the park. However, the local police officers would tend to update us regularly on the results of these findings anyway. An officer had rung up to update us, and his voice sounded dull. He sounded almost as if he was very depressed to be making the call, and I can understand why. The post-mortem had revealed that the cuts all seemed to be inflicted when the boy was alive. Furthermore, it seemed that there were no traces of food in the boy's stomach, so he clearly wasn't fed. Apparently, there were even more body parts missing, but I just thanked the officer for the information and hung up the phone slowly. I sat there for a good 20 minutes, bawling my eyes out before relaying the horrific update to a few colleagues. How that little boy didn't die sooner is beyond me. I can't contemplate how this could happen, but whoever or whatever did that is definitely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. That trail was closed off for a good time, and there were armed patrols through that area of the woods for nearly 4 months following, in a desperate attempt to find a trace of who did it, or at least where it happened. We found nothing, not even the other body parts. They even explored parts of the cave that were still safe to access, despite it being closed off due to many deaths, due to a lack of safety. This is not the only experience of this nature that occurred there. However, I'm gonna cut it off here. I'm done writing for today. I got too emotional just allowing the memory to come back to me. Please, keep your children close by your side, and if they need the toilet, tell them they either wait or you must accompany them. And never stray far from the trail. No more than 5 meters would be my recommendation, not unless you know exactly what you're doing. I promise that my next post won't be anywhere near as grim as this one. I don't think I can bear bringing any memories like that back to the surface for a while. I think I'll just stick to the slightly creepy stuff for now. Stay safe, friends.